No gold in Guatemala, but they certainly had silver, mined and worked in the country. What you have is all colonial art is religious, but look at this workmanship, absolutely incredible. These are the halos for the sculptures. The Mayas did not have silver before the Spanish came, so you can imagine when they pull the virgins out of the church. These are called banderetas, so they move in the sunlight. It must have looked absolutely miraculous. What you have over here is some exquisite pieces from the cofradías and the hermandades, which are in charge of the processions throughout the country. So instead of coming into the church with the choir, the hermandades are going out of the church, glittering in the sunlight. Antigua had no nobility. Remember, the kings, of course, stayed in Spain. So all of the crowns were for sculptures. Saint Joseph, Jesus, the Virgin Mary particularly have sculptures. The smaller ones were for miniatures, for your nightstand. We had Philippe visit us from the Louvre in Paris. He's given 2 fabulous lectures in his visits here. And he gave a ranking of a 10 out of a 10 in the world for St. Michael. Come see. Incredible. 10 out of a 10 ranking in the world. So at the lecture, I asked Philippe, why does St. Michael get a 10 and not perhaps another number? He said, because of the silver fingers. Apparently they're unusual. So it's made out of cedar. You can see the flesh-like look of the face, glass eyes, and covered in absolutely exquisite silver, all from Guatemala. This would have been in a house because of the size, not a church. Remember, you would invest or decorate your house with colonial art that was all religious. Absolutely fabulous. Many of you have already visited the church with fabulous weddings and celebrations. Can you imagine it had 12 feet of dirt? And the National Council, we were not able to keep the squatters out of it in the 1980s. So it was agreed that the hotel would not only buy them out, but assist them in relocating them to other properties. So there were 26 different families just in the church. That was more like a social project. So what you have is they start cleaning this area out, a side chapel, and you can clearly see how high the rubble was, where the new and the old come together. So you clean it out. They have to wait to get funds because this was all been sustainable tourism. So as they have weddings and more guests, they buy more art and do more work. And indeed, you can see is that as they cleaned this out, they found the original floor here from 1632. Covering it back up until they had the funds to rebuild this. The roof went up, I'd say about 6 or 7 years ago. And what you have is authenticity. So I can't guess or imagine or figure out the way it used to be if I don't know. So what you do is either original, you stabilize, or brand new, in it goes. Originally, this chapel was closed. It had a huge altar here. Archaeologists and historians know much more about this, that we have benefited through their research, PhD dissertations, and so forth. So this was closed with the big altar. The Virgin was here. She moved to Guatemala City, so we got her photo. So as the hotel decorates, so to speak, you have beautiful paintings, many of them painted by Guatemalan artists and a few perhaps by Mexican. And they use the claro oscuro technique with brown and dark red. Everything has been bought, restored on site, and put on display. You also have some enormous sculptures, these coming in perhaps from churches, from here in Antigua, moved to Guatemala City, and then bought back. What you have with art is you don't always know exactly where it was originally, because the essence is that art moves around. So these are just some of the beautiful pieces here on display. So what a surprise. This is the biggest discovery in the last 50 years, at least, that I've seen in Antigua. Someone had left a row of stone here, as I mentioned. The mural painting from the 1600s was intact, with the Christ figure, Virgin Mary, Mary Magdalena, St. John, the 2 thieves, and of course the canopy above with the sun and the moon. The restoration work included a 4-year project where they cleaned all of this out, of course historical studies, put a cement floor in, And everybody was buried in their church in colonial times, absolutely everyone. So in a moment, we're going to film a side crypt with human remains found on site, not exactly where they are today, but found on site in Santo Domingo. This is the biggest discovery in the 20th century.